Quite a few people have asked me if I'd do a video about how I use FEWM, so this is that video. I don't think there's too much to learn really. You're currently looking at one of three monitors. This one happens to be in the middle and there's a monitor on the side of this. So I have a 3-monitor setup. Along the top of each screen there is this blue bar, and this is actually Lemon Bar. It's available on GitHub. It's an external tool that just displays whatever information you want to tell it to. And FEWM with this status on command will actually spit out JSON information down a FIFO, and I slurp that in and convert it into something that Lemon Bar can read and understand, and then it displays it here. So this green 0 is the current desktop that I'm currently looking at. I then have some information here about the name of the output monitor I'm looking at, as well as the number of active clients that are on that desk. So if I open up another terminal, you can see that the active count has increased to 2. If I close it, back it goes. I then have the name of the window, or rather I should say the visible name of the window that's currently focused, and then all the way over here is just some information that Conky is outputting, such as CPU, memory, so that I can keep an eye on the state of my machine. I do a lot of compilation and quite CPU intensive work as part of my day job, so I have to keep a very careful eye on how my resource usage is. So that status command is actually very useful. I could, if I wanted to, have used the buttons module to display similar sort of information, but the whole point of this was to use Lemon Bar because I've used it a lot for other things, so I wanted the same capability here. I've already mentioned in a previous video that I have per monitor desktop configuration, so you won't be able to see this, but if I switch to another desktop here, now I'm on desk 1, but the other monitors remain on the desk that they're on, and I find this very, very useful indeed. I have a bunch of information here about module timeouts and edge resistance and things like that. I'm going to skip that, but this is just a lot of preamble about what happens at the screen edges. My desktop size is set to 1 by 1. I do not make use of pages, so I tend to make use of top level desktops to organise my work. Occasionally I might set the desktop size to be more than 1, but that's quite rare. As you can probably tell, I do like the MWM look, and so I do turn this on by default, and if I just click and move the window, you can see there that you have a little window that tells you the relative position of this window. Because I've got 3 monitors, I have base strut set up, which allows me to not cover the panel at the top and at the bottom, like so. The bar at the bottom is just an icon man module in FEWM, which just lists the number of open applications that I currently have. And you can see the more terminals I open, the more they get there. I can't find them, etc., etc. Not something I make too much use of, but it does come in handy from time to time. And really my use of FEWM is pretty much terminal based and keyboard driven, so I live out of Tmux. And this is where I do all of my work really, is in different Tmux sessions. So this session here, work, is what I use for actually personal projects, and then I have other sessions for various support work that I might be doing with certain clients, and a other session that I use for random bits and pieces. So a lot of my workflow is very much session based as well, particularly within Tmux. If I look at the decor, you can probably see, but I'll make this a little easier. I do like the motif decoration. Now I've changed the buttons so that they have a down and up arrow, which is a little reminiscent of Windows 3.1, but it makes it more visually obvious what would happen if I were to click either of these buttons. And again, you can click and hold and drag the window around, and double clicking the title will shade the window. I'll do a separate video on decors because they are confusing enough in their own right that they probably deserve their own mention. But suffice it to say that the actual style of window, aside from changing the different buttons with those vector commands you see there, it's largely the sort of stock decor that comes with FEWM. I am running a custom patch I've yet to merge into FEWM3 whereby I'm able to style the individual borders and handles, which is why that might look a little strange. Unfocused windows are grey because that's how I'm always used to seeing unfocused windows, and if I move focus away from a particular monitor, then all of those windows go blue to give me a better visual indication that the focus, and indeed the mouse pointer, is not on that particular screen. I have some functions that will start and end work for when I'm doing my day job, and really these key bindings are the thing that drives my use with this window manager. So the first thing to note is, in order to move between different desks, there's this bracket right and bracket left, and if I hold that down in combination with the Windows key, I can indeed move between different desks. And if you keep your eye on lemon bar at the top here, you'll see that I'm moving between them. If I start a window up and move away, it keeps itself there, so I'm able to see which desktops don't have any windows on them just by that visual indication there, which is quite handy. I also don't need to move the mouse as I am doing at the moment to focus windows. I can actually do that by holding down the Windows key and going left or right, and you can see as I do that the window shifts between focus. What I also do is I move windows around with the keyboard, and in this case I'm able to move this window to the sides of the monitor, and also I'm able to move it to snap to different windows, and this is really useful because I can now maximize that window and this window, and therefore I've got myself a manual means of tiling, if you like, by filling up the available space, and that allows you to very quickly place windows wherever I see fit. So that moving of windows between the corners of the monitor as well as snapping to other windows is catered for by this shuffle dir function, and that's currently running some experimental code that I haven't merged into the main branch of FEWM yet, but I will do soon because that's looking quite stable now. And although I could have achieved the same thing by using a custom function with a whole load of external mathematics to compute where to move the window to, I wanted to have this built into FEWM directly because I felt that it was a common enough operation that it deserves to be there by default. And then really everything else is making judicious use of Rofi. Now, Rofi is another external tool which you can use to create custom menus that are searchable. So the Alt, Shift and question mark key brings up Rofi, and this is the run a command dialog, but I also have it bound such that I can look at open applications, and I use this a lot to switch between applications, particularly if they are on other screens. I do have a menu bound to the root window, but I very rarely use it, and if I just click here you'll see that this green menu has popped up, and indeed a lot of these entries are in fact stale and stagnant because I've manually defined this menu structure, but over the years application use has come and gone, but I've not seen fit to change the menu because I rarely use it. If a window demands my attention, then it will turn a certain colour. You can see also that I have this urgent flag that I also print out if a particular window on a certain desk has the urgency flag set, and that's important because it may very well be that this window is covered up, so when that flag occurs on a window but I can't see the actual window itself, at least I'll have a visual clue that there's been a bell in a terminal somewhere. And given all of the monitoring that I need to do for my day job, again I find that particularly useful. And when I focus the window, that flag will clear and it goes back to how it was before. Most of these functions are actually just bindings for different events, such as moving a window around, etc. I was using a nearest neighbour algorithm to determine which windows could reach focus in a given direction. I don't use that anymore, and I've really just co-opted the nameless function for defining something different, which is a bit naughty really. I should probably rename that. So here's the menu structure I spoke about earlier, which I'm going to largely skip because you've all seen menus before, and like I say, that's not something that I use. And that's it. It's incredibly bare bones. As I say, everything that I do is driven by the keyboard. If I need to find a window quickly because I've misplaced it or it's not where I thought it was, then again Rofi helps massively with that. Since I live in Tmux anyway, I have everything that I need to there, and I'm able to start as many xterms as I need to. So really my actual sort of feature set with FEWM is incredibly tiny given the amount of functionality that it has, and in the past I have done some clever things to aid in the certain layouts of windows, and I think that that's the other important aspect here, is that a lot of the power that I use from this window manager comes from window placement, not just in terms of the manual tiling that I showed earlier, but also where windows are initially placed. And at the moment I have windows placed under the mouse for most things. However, there are some windows that I explicitly say that they should start on a certain screen or a certain desk, and that's really just to fulfill the fact that I might full screen those applications from time to time, and I want them in a known set place so I can jump to them quite quickly. And perhaps I'll do a separate video around window placement because that is interesting. I do find myself moving windows around quite a bit with the mouse, particularly to resize to get a bit more control. And you'll notice that snap attraction comes into play here, where it does snap to screen edges, and that's quite handy so to quickly put a window where you want it to go, and then maybe resize it from there. So it's already anchored. So that's it. That's how I use this window manager. I think those people that were asking me to see my config, where you can see bits of it here, I will put a link to a gist on GitHub where you can have a look at it. It isn't anything earth-shattering, and you're more likely to get a better sense of functionality and better workflow use from dedicated projects such as NSCDE or FEWM Nightshade, both of which have really gone to town in terms of configuring this window manager and setting up various bits of functionality. So if you do have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching.